show how this is how movies are made now. Like you need these partners. This is how we produce films in Hollywood. You have to have all these things happening to promote a film, to make them popular. And I think that whole concept of buying into that ideology is what makes the film work.
Were any of the people who were responsible for actually putting products in films afraid that this would make audiences hyper aware of it from this point forward?
Well, absolutely. Well, you see that we do an interview with Britt Johnson and Norm Marshall in the film. Of all the product placing people in Hollywood, all of them, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of companies. Those are the only two guys that would go on camera and talk to us. The only two. And Britt Johnson, and both Britt and Norm are fantastic. They just saw the film in LA this past week. They love the film. And Britt, Britt right now, we're trying to do something which would be so cool if we can pull it off. We're trying to product place the poster for the greatest movie ever sold in a TV show right now. And so he's working with all his people who put things in TV shows to try and get the greatest movie ever sold poster in a TV show before the movie comes out. Which right now we're up against the wire to try and pull it off.
I want to make sure the audience gets a chance to ask some questions. Does anybody have anything? There must be many questions, so right there.
Did you get any feedback from brands who turned you down originally once you got your momentum going?
Well, Old Navy was one that turned us down. Old Navy was the one that said we don't want to be a part of this, and then when they saw the film at Sundance, they jumped on board. There were other brands that I think said no. That we met people along the way since the films kind of started streaming that said we should have done that film, but none that jumped on board like Old Navy did.
How about McDonald's? Did you go?
We called, of course,
or any fast food.
Of course, no. We called all of the things. We called when all the agencies said no. Every advertising agency wanted nothing to do with this film, with the exception of Richard Kirschenbaum and John Bond. And that's because I knew Richard and John from Kirschenbaum and Bond for about 10 years. So they were the only advertising company out of literally hundreds of advertising companies that would even deal with us. And so they said, we'll help you. And then they opened up the door for us to meet BAM. No product placement company would help us with the film, and only two of them would go on camera and do an interview. And so then we started calling all the brands ourselves. And so as we started calling all the brands, we were calling by category, because that's what we're like, well, we'll call everything. You gotta fill, there's certain categories that are in films. Of course there's like a soft drink category, like a fast food, quick serve food category. There's a like a hotel, airline, shoe, all the way down the line. So we tried to fill all of the major categories. Bank, we couldn't get a bank, we couldn't get a credit card, but we called Nike, we called Reebok, we called K-Swiss, Ben Sherman, all of them. Nobody would help out. So we started calling the beverages. We called Coke, Pepsi, RC Cola. Then we started calling the fast food companies, because if you want to make a blockbuster or a dockbuster, then you got to have a fast food tie-in. And so we started calling all the fast food companies. We called McDonald's. Of course, they didn't call back. Big surprise.
Yeah.
We called Burger King. They wanted nothing to do with the film. We called In-N-Out Burger. I was like, In-N-Out Burger is perfect for you. What? You guys are such a fuck you to the industry to begin with. So great, you have to do this. How great would it be to create like the most fantastic anti-happy meal? The most unhappy meal you can get is that In-N-Out Burger. And they wanted nothing to do with it. We called Wiener Schnitzel. It's like, oh, Wiener Schnitzel. It's like, you guys are so busy, you want nothing to do with greatest movie ever sold. There's like so much going on. It's a fucking hot dog chain. There's so much going on at the hot dog factory, they couldn't be involved in the greatest movie. So so no fast food company wanted, no Jack in the Box, nobody. So I said, okay, we got to go to a place that makes collector cups. 7-Eleven. We'll call 7-Eleven. We got to be a Slurpee cup. We got to be something like so. 7-Eleven didn't want to do it. Circle K said no. Wawa said no. St. Clair said no. The one with the dinosaur, So they all said no. And so then finally, like somebody might have said, well, what about Sheets? And I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's call Sheets. So we called them up, and literally they called back. These were all cold calls, by the way. We made 500-600 cold calls to companies that led to 15 companies coming on board, one of which was Sheets. We called them up, and they're like, sure, come on out. So when the movie opens up, the movie starts spreading out April 22nd. The week before that, there will be great movies. So all the sponsors, when they started calling the film, you see the contracts as they start rolling in, which literally were like 50 pages long. They were like Magna Carta that we had to sign. And so they all want, well, we want final approval of the film. Absolutely not. Okay, well, we want final approval of every scene that our product is in. Absolutely not. And so we said, well, we will come to a creative conversation. There'll be a creative consultation is what it's actually called. So we agreed to a creative consultation where we will tell you and pitch you how we'll include you in the film. We'll come to some sort of agreement on that. We'll shoot that, and then we'll put that in the movie. And what we agreed to were two things with every brand. One was a how's that phone? Go ahead.
It's delicious. I've
Go
never had
ahead.
this before.
Turn around. There you go. That's right. Oh, you know, prove the logo. There you go. And so we had to do two things. We agreed to two things. One, as you see us pitch to ban, is there's a non-disparagement clause. We agreed not to disparage any of the brands that were actually in the products in the film. And then the other was we agreed to let every brand see the movie prior to theatrical release. And so they all signed off. They're like, great, prior to theatrical release, we'll all get to see the film, comment, sign off, all that good stuff. And so we're working on the film, finishing film, then we announced we're going to premiere the film at Sundance. And they said, well, we should see the film before we go to Sundance. And I'm like, well, it's not really a theatrical release, it's just kind of like a film festival. And it's not really, it doesn't really matter that much. It's just like a little film festival. And but you know what would be great is if you guys saw the film at Sundance. That would make so much more sense. You should come there, because only what I didn't want was to travel to someone's headquarters and sit in a boardroom and watch this with a room full of lawyers and publicists going, oh my God, we look terrible. Because that would have been the worst thing ever. To watch this film in a vacuum where all they're doing is dissecting the movie from their point of view. What you want to do is take their point of view out of it so they could see it through the eyes of a real audience. And so we said, so they all agreed. They said, okay, great, we'll see it at Sundance. So 11 of the 15 brand partners we had going into Sundance came to Sundance to see the film. Great response, just like tonight, a fantastic response from the audience. All the crew from the film comes down. We invite all the sponsors from the film to come down. Standing ovation for the sponsors as they come down to the front of the room. And the best comment was from a woman in the front row who said, I just have to say, I think it's so great you guys made this film. And to all the brands that are here, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to make it a point to buy more of your products. But I'm telling you right now, I'm conflicted by it. Because I know that's what the whole film's about. So it was literally have that be the very first comment from somebody who was amazing.
Yeah.
In the scene where you're meeting with your lawyer,
Yeah.
was the Super Size Me poster placed behind him for the benefit of the scene, or is it always there?
That's a question for Paul Brennan. We showed up at his office and he was there. I feel like Paul Brennan might have probably placed that there for our benefit. So, Paul, he's been my lawyer now for going on probably about 11 years. So I think he may have personally probably placed that just to make me feel good. And I'm sure when the client from another movie comes in, he switches my poster out with someone else's. Because it's that easy.
We got time for